Hey everybody, this is DeCryptolorian from the Whale community, and this is Camera Culture, where we talk about, we take the diverse creators of the NFT photography movement and we put them into focus. That is my line, and today we have a very special guest who is an astrophotographer, Mustafa Aydin, a well-known and respected photographer of all walks of life, and he is bringing excitement and wonder not only to the traditional world, but also the NFT space. So welcome, Mustafa.
Hey, DC, I'm so excited and to be here. I was looking forward to it. So hello, everybody. It's gonna be awesome.
I'm so excited to have you. For those that don't know who you are, which many in the space do, in the NFT photography world do, tell us a little bit about yourself, if you would.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Mustafa Aydin, obviously. I was born in 1974 in a small town in Black Sea region in Turkey. And I continued my first and secondary education there. Then I came to Ankara to study physics engineering in Hacettepe University. And my dad was a photographer, so the photography is a family thing. And he opened his studio in 1954. And now it has been some time that we lost him, but his studio is still alive with my brother. And I've been doing astrophotography for 10 years nearly. But of course, before that, I've been doing amateur astronomy. So I still live in Ankara. And since May 2021, I am full-time photographer and astrophotographer, instructor, and NFT artist. Thank you.
Wow, that is awesome. And honestly, looking at some of your photography, it's it's so good. Oh my, I saw it early on, and I said, "Wow, this is so good." Then we had some spaces together, and I heard you talk about it. Just before we get into the presentation, because I know a lot of folks. I actually was pinging the Discord just a few minutes ago, and there's a lot of people when they heard that you were coming on, they were very excited to see the presentation. But before we get into learning about this amazing process and what you do, tell us how you got into the NFT world. I'm just curious.
It's just like very accidentally actually I stopped what I was doing last year in May. I still have the company actually. It is a consulting company, but I was like I was in a fog. I didn't know what to do, and I had some astrophotography friends, and they were into crypto, and I was always saying that I'm old enough to get into crypto. I don't understand anything, but then they made me invest in crypto a little. So I was like, and then all of a sudden, we were like, let's do NFTs. So yeah, in September 2021, I launched my Genesis collection called Space Ape. At that time, apes were so famous, and I thought what I could do about apes. And the opening piece of my collection is actually an ape because it is called Monkey Head Nebula. So I came up with that idea, and it worked so well. So since then, I'm in NFT space.
Wow, that absolutely love it. Yeah, it's fun to hear how people jumped into the crypto space and how they got into NFTs, and this space really suits you. And just hearing about your Genesis piece there, oh man, that was a good choice, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, we have just to let you know, we have a bunch of people watching from the Discord and also on Twitter and on YouTube. So that's fantastic. We will take questions at the end. So I didn't want to divert you into the questions section just yet, but yeah, you have this amazing presentation for us. So I am going to put that right up and you go to
Cool.
town because this is awesome. I hope we get to do a bunch of these. Learning about astrophotography is amazing. So yeah, take it away.
Okay. So, like I told you before we started the broadcast, what I'm planning is to have a series of classes, and this will be about deep space astrophotography equipment overview. So we will be talking about telescopes, we will be talking about tracking mounts, we will be talking about cameras and sensor parameters and how we select our equipment. And next, if the weather cooperates and if everything would be okay, we can do something like next weekend, as there is going to be a new moon. I'm going to have another short presentation, and after that short presentation, I will set my equipment, and then I will do the settings, and we will make some live shooting. So it's going to be exciting, I guess. Yeah, so here we are with, you see one of my photos. This is called Horsehead Nebula, as it resembles a horse head. It is in the constellation of Orion, which is one of my favorite targets to shoot. So yeah, let's start if everybody is okay. Like I said, we're going to talk about equipments today, and let's start with deep space astrophotography. What we shoot with deep space astrophotography is, first of all, we shoot nebulae. And there are different types of nebulae, which are called emission nebulae, reflection, and planetary, and a fairly new concept called integrated flux nebula, or IFN in short. So here we have emission nebulae are actually most of the time hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, and other gases emitting light because of the nearby star, stimulating them by their energetic UV light. So when those radiation hit the gases, they actually glow in different colors depending on what atom is. So we actually have something similar to this in our world, so-called aurora borealis or aurora australis, northern or southern lights. Actually, that's how it happens. The radiation coming from sun hits atoms in our atmosphere, and those atoms glow in different colors. So that is called emission nebulae. And reflection nebulae is, as the name suggests, when the star nearby is not powerful and is not energetic as that creates emission nebula, they create reflection nebula. These the dust and gas actually reflect the light from star, and those are called reflection nebula. And the other type of nebula is called planetary nebula. There are different types of stars with different types of masses. If a star has a smaller mass, like our sun, they end their life as a planetary nebula, and at the end there is one small white star and a nebula left over that is called Planetary Nebulae. And integrated flux nebula is a very, very new concept that all the stars in our galaxy, the light from all the stars is reflected by the interstellar medium and interstellar dust and gas. That is called integrated flux nebula. Integrated flux nebula is extremely faint. That's why you have to shoot tens of hours of photography to get it in your picture. So it is one of my interests to shoot integrated flux nebula, and I've done that once cooperating with an astrophotographer from United States. We collected together around 40 hours of data and post-processed it together to bring out integrated flux nebula. And we have galaxies, of course. So, you know, starting with Andromeda Galaxy, Triangulum Galaxy, those are the nearest galaxies to us. There are lots of galaxies that we can shoot. And of course, we have star clusters. There are two types of star clusters. One is called open star clusters. These are actually like, you know, for instance, if you know Pleiades, that is a open star cluster. These star clusters, these stars are actually made of the same material, same gas clouds, and after the stars are created, they stand together for a while, and then because of the gravity, and then they may get separated at the end. And there are also globular star clusters. For the ones that follow me might have seen, I shared this globular star cluster recently. They are really, really interesting objects. In our galaxy, in Milky Way galaxy, there are like 100 to 200 star clusters, and maybe there might be more. And these are actually like balls of stars. And one of the biggest one that I actually shared, it is Omega Centauri globular star cluster, has 10 million stars in it. It's like, imagine a ball of 10 million stars together. So these are really, really interesting objects. They are located in hollow of our galaxy, and they are known as one of the oldest things in our galaxy. And of course, despite they are not deep space objects because they are in our solar system, we have comets. And you know, after nebulae and galaxies, you know, one of my interests is comets, because they are so dynamic and they are changing every day. 2 years ago, I was shooting comet Neowise. So they are changing every day, and they are a little bit challenging to shoot and post-process. That's why I do love comets. Whenever there is a comet, I go and shoot. Okay, so let's go to equipment. We first of all need an optical device. This can be a camera lens or a telescope that we will talk about in details. And we have a tracker mount tracking device, this one here, and an auto-guiding system to compensate the errors from tracking device. Of course, we need a camera, and we may need filters. We don't use filters all the time. Depending on the situation, we use filters. We need a computer, and of course, we need some accessories like cables and other stuff. And of course, we need electricity. For that, we use if we have a landline, then we can use landline, or if we are in a remote place without any landline electric, then we can use some batteries and solar systems.
Wow.
Yeah, I do have solar panels, 3 solar panels, each 50 watts, and I have 100 gel battery. So when I'm in a remote place, that works for one night, and the next day I fill the battery up with the solar panels. So we are good to go. And because because of the light pollution, we really tend to go to more remote places. So that is essential equipment.
Wow. Can I ask a few questions?
Yeah, please.
So the first part of the presentation, the only thing that I was going to say is wow, after basically everything you said. So I didn't ask anything there, but the equipment, yeah, I think that one of the first questions I had is can you do this anywhere? But I think you may have answered that with the light pollution. So that becomes a real issue. How big of an issue does it become? I mean, do you have to go really remote to get a shot, or if a porch light is on like 300 feet away, does that actually bother you?
Oh, yeah, actually, well, it depends. There are 2 types of astrophotography, deep space astrophotography. One is called broadband astrophotography, and the other is called narrowband astrophotography. Broadband astrophotography is like, the normal light that we see with our eyes, like, RGB colors. If you're doing broadband astrophotography, like LRGB astrophotography, then you really need a dark space place without light pollution, because then you will not be using any special filters and not filtering the light pollution coming from your neighbor, coming from the car passing by, coming from the street lights. But if you're doing narrowband astrophotography, you use some special filters targeting specific wavelengths of lights, and as the name suggests, it's narrower, so you don't really get the light from your neighbor, light from the cars, light from the streets. Even for some wavelengths, even if there is a full moon in the sky, you wouldn't mind. For instance, if we are shooting what we call hydrogen alpha, actually I was explaining that when I'm talking about emission nebula. So if there is a hydrogen gas near an energetic star, this UV lights from this energetic star goes and hits these hydrogen atoms. And hydrogen atom is the most simple element in the universe and most abundant one, actually. So when this energetic UV lights hit this atom, the electron in the hydrogen atom is excited, and it goes up to another energy level. And of course, in everything in the universe tends to have less energy. So this electron, after a while, will want to go back to its original energy level. When they are going to this energy level, the excess energy is emitted as a photon. And for hydrogen, it is 656 nanometer. There's going to be a photon with that wavelength. For this type of shooting, it's called narrowband astrophotography. If you are using a monochrome camera and using a hydrogen alpha filter, you wouldn't even mind a full moon in the sky. There are 2 other filters called oxygen 3 and sulfur 2. These two filters are a little bit more sensitive to light pollution. That's why if you are shooting, let's say you can shoot narrowband astrophotography even inside big cities, and you would shoot, let's say, hydrogen alpha during the full moon, but you would wait a smaller moon for shooting oxygen 3 and sulfur 2 bands.
Wow. Oh man, that is I think the most comprehensive answer that I've ever heard on any subject. That is so fascinating. I,
Yeah.
I can't find the words. I mean, this is so fascinating. I'm going to let you continue and tell us more about. It looks like you're going to keep going with the equipment. So
Yeah.
I'm going to be quiet here and I'm going to mute myself because all I'm going to be doing is saying wow. So wow,
Yeah, thank you.
this is crazy. I love it. I love it. Keep going.
Okay. So yeah, like first of all, we need an optical device to capture the light from the targeted deep space object, right? And there is one misconception here all the time. It is always thought that we would need very, very big telescopes, very, very big focal lengths, but it is not true because there are some objects in the night sky that are really, really big. For instance, I was talking about Andromeda Galaxy a few moments before. This galaxy is 2.5 million light years away from us. And it is so big, it actually, it is as big as 6 full moons in the night sky. But we cannot see it that big because it is so faint, right? So for that, we wouldn't need a huge telescope with, let's say, 4,000 millimeter of focal length. Here I will show you one lens. I don't know. I don't think that it's not going to be advertising, but that's a lens that I use. It is from Samyang or Rokinon in some countries, 135 f2.0 lens. So this we will come to that point. How it will be look like that specific galaxy. This will have a wider field of view. And you can even shoot lots of different deep space objects with a lens like this, even with 100 millimeter, even with 50 millimeter, even with 35 millimeter lenses, you can shoot deep space astrophotography. Isn't it fantastic? I mean, you always thought that you needed very, very huge telescopes, right? To shoot those fascinating photos. But you can do with this type of lenses also, because there are lots of objects that are really, really big in the sky. For instance, there is North American Nebula. There is Vela supernova remnant that you used for announcing this event. It is as big as 14 full moons in the sky. They are just so faint, but they are so big. So if you're using a huge telescope, then you would have to make a panoramic view and then stitch all those panoramic images all together. So that doesn't make any sense, right? So we can use this type of lenses to shoot deep space astrophotography also. And of course, we need telescopes if we need higher focal length or narrower field of view. And we have 3 types of telescopes. We will go in details. One of them is called Refractor Telescopes. And the second is Reflector. And third is Catadioptric Telescopes, which is the combination of the two And yeah, so let's go in detail about telescopes. And here we will talk about refractor telescopes. Refractor telescopes, as you can see, you're seeing Galileo. It is thought that it was invented by him, but it is not invented by him. It is actually, it was invented by a German guy called Hans Lippershey. And he is actually German, but he lived in Holland. And they were using telescopes only for military purposes back then. And Galileo Galilei was the first guy to point a telescope to the night sky. That's why these telescopes are called refractor or Galilean telescopes, or even Galileoscope. And these telescopes have a glass lens in front. And Galileo was the first guy who observed heavens with these type of telescopes. And Galileo, actually looked at moon, and he realized that there are structures on the moon, which we call craters. And he made these drawings. And he also looked at planets. Here you can see the drawings of Jupiter, and what we call Jupiter has 4 bright moons that we call Galilean moons, which are Io, Europa, Ganymede, and Callisto. And Ganymede is the largest moon that we know in the solar system. So he was observing it, and he was drawing, and then he realized that there were actually moons revolving around Jupiter. And this is what a refractor telescope looked like. Actually, it is just like our photographic lenses or objectives that we use in our cameras. It has an objective lens. It's a concave glass, and this objective lens collects the light from the object, and then we have the eyepiece lens to make it possible that we see the object. Actually, this refractor telescopes, the design of this telescopes didn't change a little bit since Hans Lippershey and Galileo. Only the quality of glass and coatings of glass and the material used for making the telescope has changed. But other than that, everything is the same. And then we have, of course, some pros and cons from refractor telescopes. These type of refractor telescopes have impressive contrast and sharpness, and they are really easier to use, and they are really light in weight and easy to transport. They don't need maintenance, or they don't need some cleanings, anything, and they are closed tube systems because there is a glass in the front end, and there is another glass in the back end. So they are closed tube systems. That's why they are dust and other unwanted things proof. And we have, of course, some cones. They have smaller diameters, and in astronomy and astrophotography, size really matters. Like imagine, humankind has been building larger and larger telescopes. Why? Because size matters. The larger the telescope is, the capacity of collecting light increases. That's why the size matters. But for refractor telescopes, as they are made of glass, you cannot go really big, because then they will be extremely heavy, and because glass is an amorph material, it will even bend under its own weight after a while. So that's why we cannot make really large telescopes with glasses. Refractor telescopes. And they cause chromatic aberrations, because the light that we know, actually the white light, consists of different wavelengths of lights, right? Remember Newton's prism. When a light goes through a prism, then on the other hand, you will see different colors, because light travels, the different wavelengths of light travels at different speeds in a medium. That is why when we use glass, and if we don't have specific and special coatings, it will cause chromatic aberrations. And in astrophotography, chromatic aberration is really mass, because chromatic aberrations normally happen at the highest contrast area, which we have stars and the black background, the space that is the highest contrast. Around the stars, we will have lots of chromatic aberrations if our telescope don't have special coatings. That will also add extra cost to our telescope, those coatings. And that's why, because of all these cons, they have higher price relative to reflector telescopes that we are going to talk about them now. And these type of telescopes, refractor telescopes, are really good for deep space astrophotography, depending on the focal length and depending on field of view and depending on your budget and depending on your purpose. The second type of telescope is refractor telescope. Instead of using a glass, these telescopes use a concave mirror. And these are called refractor or Newtonian telescopes because this was invented by the famous physicist of all the times, Newton. And the reason to invent this telescope was to discard disadvantages from the refractor telescopes. And like I said, they were smaller in diameters. You couldn't make big ones. And also they had chromatic aberrations because the light was going through a medium. But in this case, light doesn't go through a medium. They just reflect from the mirror. So these telescopes are free of chromatic aberrations. And these are also called used for deep space astrophotography. And this is the design, actually. You see, this is the front of the telescope. The light from celestial body comes, and there is a primary mirror, which is a concave mirror. And then this mirror collects the light, and the light is reflected by a secondary mirror to eyepiece, so that you can have the vision from the telescope. And we, of course, have pros and cons for this type of telescopes. They have higher aperture. We will talk about aperture, but I'm sure most of you know, because you're all photographers. You know what F ratio is. So this type of telescopes can have from f3 to f7 This means that they are really, really fast. They are really, really fast optics. For instance, if you have an F3 telescope, that means that it is so fast. You can collect light faster than an F7 telescope. And on the contrary to photography lenses, telescopes, of course, don't have diaphragm values. They only have one F ratio. And their prices are lower because they are easier to make. And no chromatic aberrations because, like I said, light doesn't go through a medium. And the cones, they have relatively low optical quality. And they need periodic maintenance because we have two mirrors. And when even you're carrying or when you're transporting from one place to another in your car, you may have to align these two mirrors to each other after some periodic times. And they are open, like you said, the front end is open, so they are open to dust and other outside things. Even a friend of mine had spider web in his refractor telescope, so it is a little bit tricky to use in terms of that. And they are bulky and heavy, and they are not easy to transport. And because there is a secondary mirror, let's go back. You see, there is a secondary mirror here. So this will cut some light. So we won't be using this aperture or physical aperture effectively because of this mirror. And there is a system called spider holding this mirror. That will cut a little bit of light, and we won't be using the whole aperture effectively. And third type is actually a mix of the two, the refractor and mirror telescope, refractor telescopes. We have a corrector lens in front, and then we have a mirror here. Again, it's a concave mirror. It's the primary mirror. Incoming light is corrected by this corrector glass. Then it hits the mirror, and then again it hits the secondary mirror, and then it goes back to eyepiece. These type of telescopes are, good for deep space astrophotography again, and the advantage comparing to reflector ones, in shorter tubes, you can have higher focal lengths because, as you can see, light comes from here, 1, 2, 3. So let's say if this tube is 30 centimeter long, with this short tube, you can have 90 centimeter of focal length. So they are compact and they have higher focal lengths. So let's have a look at the pros and cons for this. These are closed tube systems like refractor telescopes. So they are close to outside, dust and other stuff. And they are compact and lighter comparing to reflectors. And they are easy to handle. And of course, they need lower maintenance comparing to reflector, but they need maintenance. And it is imagine the pros from reflector and refractors. They combine all those pros, and almost no chromatic aberrations. And cones a bit more expensive. They need periodic maintenance. And again, because of the secondary mirror, there is a loss of light a little, and we won't be using the whole aperture effectively. And we can talk about some parameters of telescopes. And if you have any questions, I can have a sip from my water and I can listen.
Yes. I almost thought about recording myself. Just that was a very good presentation. You got the history, you got the different types of telescopes. Wow, that's crazy. I do have some questions forming, but the ones that I have are more of process when we get there. But we did have one question from the audience that he says, this is one of our mods, Rune. He says, can you shoot deep space with, say, a 50 millimeter 1.8 prime lens?
Yes, definitely. Like I said, even with 35 millimeters, I have friends who did that. If you have, let's say, even with a full frame camera, but if you have, let's say, 1.5x crop camera, 50 millimeter will be something like 75 millimeters, right? So you will have really, really nice field of view to shoot. You can even shoot Andromeda Galaxy or some nebulae. In the coming slides, I will be showing how we can use the field of view with a software called Stellarium. So if you can download that program in your computer, and if you put your values from your sensor or camera and values from your lens, you will see. Actually, we can do that live. I mean, I can at that slide, I can just open my Stellarium and show that how it works. You will see what you will be having in your frame. So coming back to the question, of course, you can definitely shoot some deep space astrophotography with 50 millimeter prime lens. f.18 is very, very good focal ratio. That would be fantastic. You would even shoot some deep space objects without even needing a tracker device. So we will come to that point. So
wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, and in the chat, just because I know that you're not watching the chat, but you get the comments that you're a legend.
Thank you.
That Rune, who asked the question, said it's storming here, but he does want to go outside and shoot galaxies. He lives in a place where light doesn't hit.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I mean, I remember Rune in our one of the spaces. His son was also interested in astrophotography. As far as I remember, he was doing lunar shots. So 50 millimeter f.1 lens is, just perfect. Just go out and shoot, and I will tell him what to do, how to do, and I will guide him for sure.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, I'm going to let you continue, and I'll keep
Okay.
watching the chat. Yeah, and like I said, I'll save my questions for the end. It's more process, and you probably will go over that. But yeah, keep going. This is great.
Okay. Yeah, so I forgot to tell something about catadioptric telescopes. As these telescopes have really, really high focal lengths, most of the time they are either used for deep space astrophotography, or they are the best for lunar and planetary astrophotography. Because sometimes they are slower, slower optics, I mean, that means that higher focal ratio, they may have f8, f12, f20. So that's why you can shoot planets with these type of cathodically telescopes even better. And we have, I'm sure, like I said, most of you are photographers, so you know what an aperture is, you know what focal length is, and you know what f ratio is actually. And the same rules apply to telescopes also. Different than camera lenses, you cannot do diaphragm in telescopes because they don't have that, tools inside them. So we have a physical aperture. This is one of the really most important parameters because, like I said, higher the aperture is, much more light is gathered, collected by the telescope. It is the same for lenses. And focal length, it is generally expressed, the distance, which is given in millimeters, between the telescope primary lens or mirror and the point where the light rays come together in focus. So that is called focal length. And ratio of focal length with physical aperture gives us focal ratio. It actually tells us more than just focal length or aperture. It shows us, so here again we see a drawing in the formula. Here we have two water pipes, which one of them is F4, one of them is F8. Just imagine looking through these type of pipes. With this one, with this F4, of course, you will see a larger field of view, and you will collect more light, right? And with this one, F8, it's just 2 times bigger. This means that it has higher focal length with the same physical opening, right? Physical aperture. So this will be looking at, or this will have a narrower field of view, and this will collect less light, as twice as less with F4. So depending on your purpose in astrophotography, you have to pick a telescope with higher or lower F ratio. If you are aiming a wider field, we will see now, this is actually the software that I was talking about, Stellarium, and I will open it right now, actually. So when you put your camera values and lens values or telescope values, it will give you your field of view, which is shown with this red rectangle here. So you can even see what degrees, what minutes, what seconds. So here, for instance, this is with my own telescope, which has 350 millimeter focal length, and it is f5 because it is 70 millimeter. It has 70 millimeter diameter of glass, and with 1.5 x crop sensor. If I was shooting Andromeda Galaxy, the field of view was going to be something like this. So field of view actually depend on the sensor size and also the focal length. Here, the same galaxy, the same camera, 1.5x crop camera, but this time it is 135 millimeter lens with f2.0 focal ratio. So you see the field of view is wider now. Remember, I mentioned about this galaxy. So this galaxy is as wide as 6 full moons, 1, 2, 3, 5, 6 full moons, big. So with this telescope, 350 millimeter lens telescope, it will just fit in the field of view. But if you go with 135 millimeter with the same camera, then you will have a wider field of view. Of course, if we had a full frame camera instead of 1.5x crop camera, this field of view was going to be wider, right? So depending on what you want to shoot, you will have to pick your camera, the sensor size, and of course, the focal length of your optical device. So I will, without going on, I will turn on Stellarium. Stellarium is a free software that you can download in your Macs or PCs, and it is actually simulation of night sky, and you can go anywhere on Earth, and you can go to any time you want and look at the sky at that specific place and specific specific time. So we have here, I will, oops, because of the two screens, it will not show, but because there has to be many here that, yeah, here. So you can just select the location. So it is by default it's Ankara. Let's say, I don't know, New York, for instance. Where's New York? Yeah. Yeah, so here. You see, it changed. It was Ankara and it was dark. So now, at this time of the day, we're in New York, it's daytime. So I will go back to Ankara. So actually, if I was out and looking at sky, that's what I would see. These are the constellations. You can see even the satellites and everything. You can just change the settings, and you can see different stuff. If you want, you can just close. You can open satellites, and even the meteor showers and everything. So let's say I want to be in Ankara, but let's say 24th of June. How would it look like? So, and let's say not this time, but let's say so, yeah, 11, sorry. So it would look like this. So you can just scroll, zoom in, and when you zoom in, some deep space objects will be seen, and you can actually turn off the effect of atmosphere so that you can see those things better. And of course, we have lots of other stuff here. But here, now when I click this one, I will have my camera, Nikon D5300, and this is the wide field lens, Samyang 10 millimeter. But let's change this one. to Samyang 135, and let's go to, by the way, you can go to any object that you want. So I will say North American Nebula. So you see, we went to North American Nebula. So if I had a 50 millimeter lens, sorry, 135 millimeter lens with a 1.5 crop sensor, I would be seeing North American Nebula like this. So you see, it is so big because the field of view is really, really large. So it's like 9 degrees to 6 degrees. And we can also see here the size of the object. So it is 2 degrees to 1 degree 40 minutes. So it is like, you know, the longer side is like 4 full moons. So it is huge object. So imagine 50 millimeter, going back to Rune's question. So it would be more or less half of this rectangular, right? So it would be something like this. Sorry, 2 times of this. So if we had, let's actually add that lens here. So at 50 millimeter lens, focal length will be 50. And if it is f.18, so let's calculate the aperture, physical aperture, 50 divided by 1.8. So it will be something like 28 millimeter diameters. So yeah, I added that also. Now I will go like this. So this would be, you know, with a 50 millimeter lens, this would be our field of view. So it's wider. You can fit more objects, like, you know, you can fit North American and Pelican Nebula. This is called Southern region, and you can even fit Wheel Nebula all together in one frame. And here we have this tool. You can just define your sensors. Previously, I put Canon EOS RA, which is a full frame camera. You know, you can just put the resolution, chip width in millimeters, and stuff like that. Then you can add other cameras you have, and you can go through the cameras and the telescopes you have to see what field of view you're going to have. For instance, let's go to Andromeda Galaxy. Oops. It is low in the sky at the moment. So I will close this one. So if we had 50 millimeter lens with 1.f crop sensor, you know, it is a little bit of wide field of view, but still you could shoot it. So let's say if we have crop sensor and 135 millimeter lens, which is almost very nice. So, and if I had my own telescope, which is 70 millimeter, so as you can see, it would just fit in the frame. So yeah, this, like I said, you know, stellarium.org, you can go and download, and you can start using it for free, lifetime. It is just even if you're not shooting astrophotography, you can just experience the night sky, and you can go anywhere on Earth. For instance, let's say, let's go to Chile, where some of the telescopes, remote telescopes that I use, Rio Hurtado. No, it's not. Let's say just Chile. Yeah, somewhere in Chile. It's daytime, and of course we can change the time. See, now we are in Chile, and we are looking at the sky, how it would look like if we were in Chile, in that city, on Ancud. I don't know how to pronounce. So it is fantastic. Like I said, you can just configure lots of different things, and you can change lots of things. You can add comets, you can add satellites, you can add everything, and you can just subtract whatever you don't want, and can just use it as a night sky simulation. Okay. Anything, DC?
Yeah, I mean, that is a very powerful tool. So for me, I want to see how it all comes together. We talked about the equipment, we talked about the telescopes, and I'm just waiting patiently to see how it all kind of works. I'm more of a hands-on person.
Yeah, and even that Stellarium program I use to point my telescope to the object that I want to shoot. So I have a connection between my mount, tracker mount, and my computer. When I select an object, like, for instance, Andromeda Galaxy, and when I say go to Andromeda Galaxy, my telescope will automatically go to Andromeda Galaxy. So it has this kind of options too.
Okay, so, and this is what I'm wondering. So the big question here for me is, I get you got your telescope lined up. I had a telescope once, and I had no idea how to use it, so I'll just throw that out there. So yeah, this is so cool. So you get your telescope lined up, the software kind of points where you want it to be, right?
Yeah.
And now this is just, I don't want to, it's a question. Somebody say a dumb question, but how do you get the camera in there to take your picture? Are you like through the lens of the telescope, or do you point your camera right at that spot? How does that work?
Well, there are different types of connectivities between telescopes and cameras, depending on what kind of camera you have. For instance, my own equipment, I have a DSLR camera, and I have something called T-ring that will help connecting my camera behind my telescope, so that I can shoot using my camera. So the light coming from telescope directly goes to the camera, just like when you're mounting a lens on your camera, just like that.
Oh, okay, yep, okay, that put it all together for me. That's really cool.
Yeah.
That's really cool. Yeah, this is the whole experience is really I need to picture it in my head, and I think I got it.
Yeah, actually I have
amazing.
Yeah, actually I have a picture of my equipment at the end, so you will see how I will explain it on the whole picture.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, so I'm going on. I'm done with cameras here. I'm done with telescopes. So next equipment that we have is mounts and tracking devices. Mount is actually the equipment that carries your telescope and camera and all the other devices. And as Earth is rotating around itself, we see the night sky as if it moves, right? We see sun is rising, going up, and then goes down. We see stars are moving, but actually they are not the one. They are not the ones that are moving. Actually, the Earth is revolving around itself. To simulate that movement, that rotation, we use tracking devices. And this tracking devices also holds the whole equipment. And there are different types of mounts called alt-azimuth mounts, equatorial mounts. These are, classification depending on the coordinate systems that they are using. And also, all mounts have their payload capacities, and they have different drive types. Drive types means that how the movement is transferred from the electric motors to the axes, and there are two types. They can be manuals or computerized, or what we call go-to mounts. So when we come to the mounts that are different in I forgot the word. Anyway, so we have alt-azimuth mounts. These type of mounts, the plane the telescope sits is basically parallel to horizon. So, and they move in basically X and Y axes like this. So the telescope is here. To see the star, you have to go up, which is the X-axis, right? And also the left to right, right to left movement, which is the Y-axis actually. So these type of telescopes are mostly for, or this type of mounts are mostly for visual observations. Like there is one type that is called Dobsonian Telescopes that you can just hold the telescope and just move easily towards wherever you want in the two axes, left and right, and up and down. Up and down is called alt from altitude, and left and right is called az from azimuth. So these type of telescopes are not good, mounts are not good for deep space astrophotography, because there will be a field rotation that we call, for instance, here you can see the Orion constellation. When the Orion constellation is rising, it will be like this, and the field will be turning as it moves in the night sky. So this type of mounts cannot track this movement. That's why we don't use these alt-azimuth mounts for deep space astrophotography. If you're going to use for astrophotography, we tend to use for planetary astrophotography, where you will need shorter exposures. But here we have equatorial mounts. This type of mount has three axes. One of them is polar axis. And this is actually the plane that your telescope will be sitting on. And the plane that your telescope sitting on is parallel to the rotation axis of Earth. So just imagine if there was a, something coming from South Pole to North Pole, and the Earth is rotating around this axis. So your telescope will be parallel to this axis. So and these type of telescopes will be aligned to Polaris, which is the North Star, and will be tracking the night object with only one axis moving, which is the RA axis. And these mounts are also computerized, that you can control by the hand gear, or just like I told, by using your computer, you can just tell your telescope to go anywhere. So we will see it now. So see, we have the mount, we have the telescope, the main imaging telescope, and here we have another telescope. I will explain what it is. And here we have the camera. So this is how it looks, the whole setup. So these tracking mounts, like I said, this is the this axis here is the polar axis. It has to be aligned very carefully to the Polaris. So that the tracking system will know that this axis is aligned to Polaris, and when it is tracking the night sky, it will be tracking precisely. But as these mount tracking systems have gears, and these gears are actually getting the motion from the engine, the motor, and transferring to the axes. These axes are moving actually throughout the night. Because of these gears, even if they're perfectly manufactured, they will have backlash. And these backlashes will cause some errors in tracking. And that will cause elongations in the stars. But in deep space astrophotography, we want to have long exposures and pinpoint stars, like, very round stars, not stars like eggs, right? So that's why we use a system called auto-guiding system. For that, we have a secondary telescope and a secondary camera, which are called auto-guiding scope, or and guide camera. And we use this system with a software called PhD2. What this does is, actually, you just log into one star. And this software constantly shoots photos of the star by using this camera and measures the movement of the star. If this star is moving at any direction, that means that there is a backlash between the gears, and the tracking is not going so well. And if there is a movement in the star that you're locked on, this software will tell your tracking mount, you're going too fast, just slow down a little, or you're going too slow, just speed up a little, so that during your, let's say, 5 minutes long exposures, the stars will be pinpoint and perfect circles. Just imagine, I'm sure most of you will know what panning is, right? If there's let's say there's a vehicle moving fast and you want to shoot its photo, you just move your camera with the speed of that object, so that that object would be focused and without moving, right? So actually, what we are doing with this tracking mount and auto-guiding system is basically planning. So we lock into one deep space object, it will move throughout the night, and this device will be tracking it. But because of the backlash between the gears, there will be some errors, tracking errors, and auto-guiding system will fix that errors. I don't know if it is clear. It's one of the trickiest part of deep space astrophotography, and of course the setting up auto-guiding system. And it is really a pain in the neck because throughout the night this thing may give lots of errors, and you will hear a very annoying sound from PhD2, and every deep space astrophotographers hate that sound. Yeah. So we have lost, not lost, but main gears. We have cameras. Depending on our budget, of course, we can use DSLR or digital single lens reflex or digital single lens mirrorless stock or modified cameras. I will explain what stock and modified means. And we can use astrophotography dedicated cameras with active cooling systems, which can be CMOS cameras or CCD cameras. Of course, it depends on the budget because CCD cameras are more expensive than the CMOS cameras. And nowadays, we don't have CCD sensors in DSLR cameras and DSLM cameras. They are all CMOS cameras because of the price and the practical ways of using them. And these CMOS and CCD cameras can come with OSC or one-shot color cameras or mono cameras. If you want to go to the nirvana point in deep space astrophotography, at the end, where you go is mono cameras because the depth and the sensitivity of mono cameras are much higher than the color cameras. So here we have different types of cameras. We see here, this is a stock, let's say a DSLR camera, just normal DSLR camera. You can just use this one. Or here you see Canon EOS array. That A stands for astrophotography, actually. Since the beginning of DSLR cameras, there has been 3 manufactured astrophotography cameras. The first one was Canon 60DA. Again, A stands for astrophotography. Nikon the 810A, and recently Canon released Canon EOS array. So what is the difference between stock camera and this one is these stock cameras have sensors, and those sensors have some kind of filters in front just to cut infrared light so that cameras can capture images just like our eyes see. Because if you remove that sensor filter, then it will create different images, and it will not be looking like what we see with our eyes. But that sensor, that filter, also cuts the light from what I was talking about, hydrogen alpha regions. That red light is cut by that filter. So when we are using a stock DSLR camera or stock DSLM camera, we cut some of the hydrogen alpha emissions that we want. So Canon and Nikon did these cameras, and they weakened that filter so that they would be more sensitive to that specific wavelength of light. So we would get more red light from the object that we are shooting. And apart from that, if you have a stock camera, you can just, if you're able to do it, I wouldn't do that, but I had friends who did that. They can just remove that filter in front of sensor and make their camera more sensitive to that specific wavelength of light. And there are some third-party companies that are modifying DSLRs or mirrorless cameras. For instance, you see here Nikon Z6 modified by Central DS. It's a company. They remove the sensor and they add, this piece is not a lens. This is a cooling system. And they put the sensor here. And they also remove that filter in front of the sensor so that they would be more sensitive to hydrogen alpha emissions. So this is also another type of modified cameras. And these companies actually, they get unused cameras from manufacturers and do this modification, and they give their own warranties. But if you do it on your own, or if you send it to someone that claims doing that, then you lose your warranty, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I find that really interesting. Keep going.
Okay. Okay. So, DSLR and DSLM cameras for deep space astrophotography, if you're on budget, of course, you can just use them. That was also my starting point. That was also my starting point to have just the DSLR camera and the lens, which was 50 to 100 millimeter, without even a tracking device. So you can just start from here, depending on your budget. Of course, these things are expensive, I would say, and these are a little bit less expensive. These are the most expensive. These are the cheapest ones. And of course, we have astrophotography dedicated cameras. They can have CMOS or CCD sensors, and of course, like I said, CCD sensors are more expensive because their technology is not higher, but the way that they work is different than CMOS sensors, and they produce less noise. Comparing to CMOS sensors, but they have pros and cons between each other. So we can have a mono camera. Like I said, the nirvana point of deep space astrophotography is mono cameras. And if we have a mono camera, then we will need a filter wheel. That's what we call EFW, electronic filter wheel, that you can mount your filters, different filters. In our case, luminance, red, green, blue, and these are broadband filters. And you can have also hydrogen alpha, oxygen 3, and sulfur 2 filters that are called narrowband filters. And when you mount this electronic filter wheel right in front of your camera, you can choose which filter you're going to use from the image acquisition program, and this electronic filter will rotate, and that filter will be used to capture those images. Or you can just have a color camera, which are cheaper, and they are also nice. And like I said, these cameras have active cooling system, which is called Peltier cooling systems. And for color cameras, we can also have light pollution filters, and also we can have narrow band filters, which we call most of the time dual or triple narrow band filters, to use these color cameras as mono cameras. And these type of filters have actually hydrogen alpha and oxygen 3 filtering systems. So you will end up with a color image which has only hydrogen alpha and oxygen 3 wavelengths of lights. But for mono cameras, you will, if you're shooting a nebulae with narrow band filters, you will have 3 mono images, and you will combine those images to have one color image. Or if you're shooting a broadband image, let's say a galaxy, then you will have luminance, which will collect the brightness information from the galaxy, red, green, and blue lights from the galaxy, and then you will combine these four black and white images to create one color image. So let's have a look how a sensor works actually, because this is important to understand some parameters, very important parameters from sensors. So, sensors are actually silicon, right? When photons hit the sensor, they actually release electrons from the material, from the silicon, and these electrons are stored in pixels that I call here well, to make it understand better, or you can say just buckets that you collect the electrons that are released from the sensor. So here we have very important parameter called quantum efficiency. Quantum efficiency, like as the name suggests, how efficient is your sensor is. For instance, here we have 6 photons, let's say, and these 6 photons release 3 electrons from the sensor. So quantum efficiency is actually the ratio between the photons that hits the sensor and the electrons released from the sensor. So in this example, 6 photons, 3 electrons. So the ratio is 50%, right? So the efficiency of this sensor is 50%. In astrophotography, because we're shooting very faint objects, every photon counts. Every photon. We want to use every photon. That's why we always look for cameras with sensors with higher quantum efficiency. Most of the modern DSLR cameras have like somewhere between 50% to 75%, and some of the astronomy dedicated cameras can go up to 90% quantum efficiency, which means if 100 photons hitting the sensor, they will release 90 electrons. So just 10 photons are missed, right? So that's why we really important to look at the quantum efficiency of the sensor that we are going to buy. And in few slides, I will show where we can look at those informations. And the second thing is full well capacity. So like I said, pixels are not like wells or buckets. They are actually two-dimensional things. But to make it visualize better, we can say they are wells or buckets, which will store the electrons released from sensor. So, of course, these pixels have a capacity of maximum electrons. And this capacity is, of course, is called full well capacity. We look for higher sensors with higher full well capacity. Why? Because we want to have long exposures during the shoot. We want fainter parts of the nebulae or galaxy. We want to collect light from those parts, the faint parts, when we don't want the brighter parts to be overexposed. So what we can do with that is higher full well capacity. When we are shooting, let's say 10 minutes exposure, we will be filling our wells not fully from the brightest part of the nebulae of the galaxy, while we are having enough electrons from the fainter parts. So that is called full well capacity. So we want, and its unit is electrons. So we want higher full well capacity in our sensors. And the third thing is readout noise. In astrophotography, you have to learn and know lots of different types of noise, because our whole life and whole purpose of shooting longer exposures, calibrating with calibration frames, and stacking those images, the whole purpose is to reduce the noise as much as possible. And readout noise is the noise because of the camera itself. Like I said, these electrons are stored in the well or the pixel. Before these pixels, before the image is created, these electrons should be counted by a voltmeter. Actually, this is a voltmeter basically. And as you all know, all measure devices have their error, and this error is called temporal dark noise or readout noise, because this voltmeter will make some errors while counting these electrons. It will count sometimes 100 electrons, and it will count 98 electrons, or it will count 90 electrons, even if there is 100 electrons there. So this error is called readout noise. And camera manufacturers are trying to reduce this error by manufacturing better, let's say, voltmeters in their cameras. So that is the third important parameter which we are looking at when we are buying a camera. So as a result, we look for higher quantum efficiency so that we can use every photons. And of course, we look for higher dynamic range. I didn't mention, but you know what dynamic range is. And if possible, we are looking for higher bit depth. And we are looking for higher full well depth and lower readout noise and higher delta T. This is, I will show you what it is actually. like I said, astrophotography dedicated cameras have active cooling systems, and you can cool down your camera, let's say by 35 degrees or 50 degrees. Of course, it depends on which geography you are. For instance, if you live in a cold country, you don't need a higher delta T camera, like let's say 50 centigrade degrees difference, because when you're shooting, the environment will be colder depending on a place which has higher temperatures. And of course, we need faster connectivity. Nowadays, cameras have a USB 3 connectivity, that is to transfer the data from camera to your computer. And of course, faster processes, higher RAM. And depending on your budget, you can use DSLR or DSLM or astrophotography dedicated CMOS or CCD mono or color cameras. And of course, sensor size, if you're going to go for a crop sensor or full frame sensor or micro four thirds sensor, it depends on budget, on also something called pixel scale that I will not go into details here. And I have some resources here. You can have a look at camera sensor characteristics, especially in this website, photons2photons.net, charts sensor characteristics. This is a very useful one. Like here, for instance, I picked Nikon D750. It will show you Unity ISO, which is like the base ISO, full well capacity of the sensor, readout noise, and quantum efficiency, and ISO invariant ISO. So you can go to this website and look at your camera or the camera that you're planning to buy, the DSLRs and DSLM cameras. You will see all these parameters here. And if you're going to buy a astro-dedicated camera, manufacturer or retailers' websites will show you which sensor. For instance, this is IMX294, which is from Sony. It is micro four thirds. The resolution, the read noise, cooling temperature. So this camera will cool your camera 35 degrees below the ambient temperature. It has 265 megabytes DDR3 buffer RAM. It has USB 3.0 connectivity, and so on. It will show you full well capacity. It will show you quantum efficiency, and it will show the pixel size. And we have, of course, we will need a computer. We can either use a laptop, just a normal laptop, or as you see here, astrophotography dedicated computers that you can just mount it on your telescope, and it has wireless access, and you can just connect to this computer from laptop without any cables and control all the devices like your camera, your focuser system, your mount via this computer. And yeah, so we will also need softwares. These softwares I will be explaining more in the next class. we have two types of softwares: image acquisition softwares. These softwares will make you able to shoot the objects that you want. It will make you able to make sequences and shoot throughout the night. And then we will need image pre and post-processing softwares, of course, to post-process your images. So, and then we need some accessories like cables, div heaters. I will show the div heater on my own equipment. This is to avoid div happening on your glasses. Of course, batteries and spare batteries, polar alignment tools, power splitter, dovetail bars to connect your telescope to the mount, headlamps, and some adapters, and of course some tools to use on your equipment. So here you see my own equipment. Here I have an Orion Atlas Pro alt azimuth and equatorial mounts. Here you can see this is what I call polar alignment tool. This is again a small telescope and the camera, which will help you aligning your mount to Polaris. And this is here. We have a counterweight, and we have here dovetail bar to connect telescopes to the mount. And we have here the main imaging telescope. It is MEAD 70 millimeter apochromatic refractor telescope. There is a power splitter here to split the power between the equipments here. And here I have this green thing is a div heater to avoid div forming in the lens. And then I have the Nikon D5300 as the main imaging camera. And then here I have a smaller telescope, which is called guide scope, to have the auto-guiding system. And this red thing here is called guide camera that I explained. This camera will lock on one star and it will watch its movements via the software called PhD2 to help more precise tracking. And yeah, this is it for tonight, and I'm happy to have your questions.
Wow. Oh man, Mustafa. Oh, that is a lot to take in, and I gotta say, it is fantastic information. I just looking at the people on the chat, and they were basically saying, "Wow, this is great." They were following along. They were asking some questions too. And this is great. This is fantastic. And there's a fire emoji, of course. That's how we do it here in Discord and on Twitter. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot. And honestly, if you wouldn't mind, I know that you're around, so that's good. Some of the questions I think were answered as you went along. But these folks want to actually talk to you live, so I'll let them do that. But I actually wanted to take a few minutes before we cut off here, because I know we're going to do a series 2. Yeah. I think just have everyone kind of just process it a bit, but if you wouldn't mind showing a few of your shots and
yeah,
because we want to see your NFTs, because man, I personally want to get with you, and I guess my question would be, how much do I need to get started? And
that's the question all the time.
Yeah. But I love how technical this is. I mean, you got it right down to the science. I mean, it really is a science, honestly. And
It is. Yeah.
like you said, that even to the point where you have to worry about the dew, and and cleaning the lens and everything. It's wow. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just taking it all in. But yeah, how much? What do you think if someone were to start from scratch and didn't have anything? What would be the bottom, the bottom figure to get started?
Okay. Just get this started. Like I
Yeah.
said, if you have just a DSLR or DSLM, or mirrorless or normal mirror cameras, you can start with it. Let's say you have, like Rune said, let's say you have 50 millimeter f.1 lens. You can just start with it. Even if you have, let's say, a kit lens, 18 to 55 millimeters, you can start with it. Really, I mean, just go out and shoot. Even without a tracking device, with low focal lengths, you can have exposures around a few seconds. Like we have an equation to actually, calculate. It is called 500 rule. If they can look up or if they can DM me, I will of course help them. But let's say I will just move my calculator here. So let's say
one of my favorite tools.
Yeah. So let's say you have a full frame DSLR camera, and you have a 50 millimeter lens. Okay. As the Earth is rotating, normally you have to use a tracking device to have round stars, right? But if you don't have a tracker device, there is some certain point that there is certain exposure that you can have, and you can still avoid stars are trailing. So that is calculated with 500 rule. It's just so basic, so simple. 500 divided by focal length. Let's say we have a full frame camera, 50 millimeter lens. So that means 500 divided by 50. So with that lens and full frame camera, without having a tracking device, you can nearly have 10 seconds exposures without getting star trails. But to be on the safe side, I would use somewhere like 8 seconds, 7 seconds, for instance, to shoot that. The trickiest part here is to find the object and the night sky, because you will be on a stationary tripod, right? You need to know, for instance, if you are going to shoot Andromeda Galaxy, you need to know where the Andromeda Galaxy is in the sky. So, and you have to point your camera to Andromeda Galaxy. As long as you're able to do that, you can just use 10 to or 7, 8 seconds exposures with somewhere like 3200 ISO, depending on your camera. And if you shoot, let's say, 100 of these, you will be able to shoot Andromeda Galaxy. This can be a starting point. But if you want to have a little bit longer exposures, you can start with a DSLR camera. Either can be a full frame camera or cropped camera. Just the lens, a tele lens, like, can be somewhere between 50 to 200. If you go up 200, it will be hard to have the tracking. so this, I don't know the prices lately, but I think with the USA prices, uh, it would be something like 1,500 dollars would be enough to start with a
Wow.
very basic setup.
Wow, that's really cool. Yeah, and I totally understand where you're coming from with tracking and exposure and all that. That makes a lot more sense now that you just went over a lot of these things.
Yeah. Yeah, and like the other way around. I mean, when you're talking about you know um, the upper end, there is no limit. You can just spend millions, basically. Millions.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, you could keep going. My wife and I talk about this a lot, and we both had said, "Wow, I mean, you'd have to spend a lot of money to get a really good shot." But like you said, I mean, you could just do the bare minimum and still get a pretty good shot.
Yeah.
But yeah, you could keep going and keep having more fun and getting better at the craft, I guess. So
Yeah, of course. Like, you can even do this. For instance, let's say you living in a very, very big city, and you don't have the means to go outside of the city, and you don't want to carry your stuff all the time. Like I said, you carry lots of stuff, even the solar panels, and even camping gears, uh, even kitchen gears, uh, and you don't want to do that, and you just want to sit in your office, and you just want to control your equipment. There are even places that you can host your telescope. You can you can just tell these people, host my telescope. They will have it running up and ready all the time by high speed internet connections. You can just connect to your own telescope, and shoot the night sky. For instance, there are places in Africa, there are places in South America like that you can host your telescope.
wow, that's that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really cool and really expensive.
Yes, I bet. I bet. When we're all rich from the metaverse and NFTs, then we could all host our telescopes and we
Yeah,
could compare shots, and that actually sounds really fun.
yeah,
So yeah, but before we're almost at 2 hours, and this has been absolutely amazing. Like I said, we have this recorded, so folks can go back and watch this, and there's a lot of info, and it's really really good. Um,
yeah,
uh, so yeah, before we go, I really wanted you to show a few of your shots,
yeah,
just
sure.
so people could see all the amazing stuff that you've done. Because I mean, this is the type of photography. It's awesome.
Yeah, so deep space astrophotographers don't like moon. Let's be honest. I don't like moon. I only like moon when it is new moon phase or crescent phase. So this was one of the rare moon shots that I did last year. Um, so this place is not so far from Ankara. There are some strange rock formations there. So this is one of them with crescent moon, and I was really enjoying the sunset with beautiful colors. So I was waiting for a friend. I had to shoot this one. So this is one of the Milky Way shots that I've made. And this is another. This is not a winter night sky, and this is a very special one. Actually, this is sold as NFT. There are lots of lots of deep space objects in one shot. Here we have the Andromeda Galaxy. Here we have the Triangulum Galaxy. These are the two closest galaxies. This is 2.5 million light years away, and this is nearly 3 million light years away. And yeah, here, and one fun fact, you can see these two, and these are the farthest objects that can be seen bare eye, naked eye. So if you're at a dark, really, really dark place without light pollution, and if your eyes are good, you can see those two with naked eye. And this is here, this is called double cluster. There are two open star clusters together. So that's why they are called double cluster. And here we have a shooting star. So it is just amazing, basically a meteor hitting the Earth's atmosphere and burning.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. All in one shot. So this was sold as an NFT in my Genesis collection.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Again, here this is also a similar one. This is again nearly 2 hours from where I live. There is this rock formations. They're actually limestones, and around this one, there are lots of different space objects. I didn't sell this one, but I gifted this one to one of my collectors recently. Again, here we have Andromeda Galaxy, we have Triangulum Galaxy, we have the famous Pleiades, we have some open star clusters here, and we have Mars over here. So this is not a star, this is a planet, Mars. Yeah, so this was in a collection called Anatolian Nights, which was a collection of 3 astrophotographers, two astrophotographers, friends of mine. So I gifted this one to one of my collectors recently. So I don't know if it is visible, but this is from 2020 Perseid meteor shower. So you can see lots of meteors in one shot.
Oh,
so this
yeah.
Is,
yeah.
So this is like, you're creating a sequence, and, with the intervalometer of your camera, you just, create a sequence saying that, shoot 15 seconds exposures with this ISO, with this diaphragm, and shoot all night long. And then you go through all the images that you have, and you delete the ones that doesn't have meteors, and you combine the ones which has shooting stars, and you end up with an image like this. And these are, the Aurora Borealis. In 2019, I went to Finland to shoot these BTs. So this was the last night in Lapland, and I was with 3 Finnish friends. They have been to Lapland too many times, and they said, this was the, most immense aurora that they have witnessed. So I was so lucky. And I have this one. I actually minted this one in Foundation, and this photo has more than one phenomena, which is the 22 degrees moon halo and Aurora Borealis. And this photo was exhibited in Royal Museums Greenwich for a year, because it had a prize of exhibited. It had a prize from Astronomy Photographer of the Year in 2020. Yeah, so this is the book that they sent me. It is also printed in the book. Yeah, I just go through this. So this is one of the Milky Way shots that I made in 2019, I guess, by the lake. This is called, this region is called Phrygia. Maybe some of you will know the King Midas.
Yes.
He had,
yeah.
So King Midas lived in this region. So there are lots of rock formations here, and there are lots of ancient rock houses. And these are some Milky Way shots. Again, these are also in my Genesis collection. And I will, I will show you this actually. This is the first ever deep space astrophotography that I shoot with Nikon D7100 Sigma 50 to 100 f.18 lens, and just the tripod, no tracking device.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, this puts it into perspective for me.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Okay. All right. That's cool. That's really cool.
Yeah. So, but the thing is, with this setup, because you're not tracking the deep space object, you will start shooting. Let's say I was shooting at 100 millimeter focal length, so I was using 3 seconds exposures. So once you start shooting, I started shooting, and I shot 10 frames next to each other. And after 10 frames, I have to reframe the object, because this object will move because of the Earth's rotation. That's the trickiest part. So, and with this type of shooting, without having a tracking device, you have to have hundreds of frames to stack so that you can have some detail. So every 10 frames, you have to reframe and center the object in your frame. So that's the tricky part. But it's not undoable. It's doable.
It's doable. Okay. I'm following this. This is wow. Okay, this is really cool. Yeah, because it's moving. And okay. That I'm putting these things together.
just like sun. Imagine, sun rises from east, and it goes up, then it goes down. So it's moving.
Yeah.
It's not the sun moving, it's us moving actually.
Yes. Yeah. So, okay.
Yeah, so deep space objects are the same. Just sun is moving faster than them, but they are moving. So every 10 frames, you will have to reframe and center the object.
Yeah, that makes all the sense. Because like you said, we're moving. So you would want to move with the object, and you have to reframe it, and then. But with the other equipment, it kind of does it for you in a sense. Okay, I'm with you. See, I'm learning.
So next, next equipment. This is also the equipment that I used. It's a tracking device. Remember, I mentioned payload capacity. So this tracking device has a payload capacity of 3.5 kilograms. So you can just load a DSLR camera and the telelens, and it will make you able to shoot minute-long exposures. Remember, here, without this device, with this equipment, you can only shoot 3 seconds with 100 millimeter lens. But with this device, now you can go up to minutes-long exposures.
Oh, okay.
Because this time, this movement of Earth will be simulated, right? This camera will be rotating as Earth rotates with the same speed. So, even if you go for minute-long exposures, the stars will not elongate. The stars will not trail. They will stay round. That's what we want. And then look at that image, and here, this is with second-long, 3-second-long exposures. Now we have stack of minute-long exposures. You can tell the difference, right? So we have lots more details in the nebula and galaxy and the arms of the galaxy and fainter parts of the galaxy. We even have details here because now we increased the photons that we are collecting from the galaxy, because we had 1 or 2 or 3 minute long exposures. We filled our pixels with electrons coming from this object. Actually, photons hit the sensor, they created electrons, and they are collected in pixels, and they created this image. And then with the same equipment, the basic equipment with this one, I shot this one. This is a very nice, colorful region of the summer sky, which is called, this is the star Antares, and this is called Rho-Ophiuchi cloud complex.
Wow, that's beautiful. That is beautiful. Oh, wow.
So this is Comet Neowise. Like this is very, very, very unique photo because it has the dust tail and it has the ion tail, which has 2 colors, which is very rare with comets. This white one here is called dust tail. So comets are like snowballs actually.
Mm-hmm.
Just imagine a snowball with some rocks and stones and coal or charcoal, whatever. Like when they get into inner solar system, and as they get closer to sun, they start to melt, and the material from the comet creates this dust tail. This is actually like water, ice, dust and gas and everything. And as they get closer to sun, the radiation from sun actually ionizes some elements or molecules within the comet and creates this ion tail. Just like I mentioned, like, remember how hydrogen atoms are hit by ultraviolet lights and excited by that energy and create light. And it is the same thing here. Normally, comets have one color, and that is most of the time blue from carbon monoxide molecules. But this comet grew another ion tail, which was red, you can see here, which was from sodium atoms. Sodium atoms were ionized by radiation from the sun and created this red ion tail. And it was only for 1 or 2 nights. So I was so lucky to be there and shooting this image and have that bicolor ion tails.
Yeah, yeah. It looks like a sci-fi movie cover, or
Yeah,
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 I love it. Those two colors together are beautiful.
yeah,
I gotta mentally memorize that
yeah.
for something later on.
Yeah.
That's
So this
beautiful.
this image is not minted yet. I'm waiting to mint because this is very special one for me. And
That's awesome.
I don't think that one handful of astrophotographers were able to shoot this bicolor ion tail
Wow,
those days. Yeah.
wow,
This
yeah.
photo was printed in some magazines here in Turkey, and it was even in some news channels in United States back then.
Man, that is so cool. And that's why I think that this type of photography is so special because, like you said, I mean, this is something that very very was. Oh, there's the cat. um, so it's something that is hard to catch, and it's rare, and
Yeah,
that's why it's so special. And like when you actually take the time to discover what this process actually entails, you find a newfound respect for the whole practice. I mean, this is great. I mean, this is a lot. It's also like so technical and so amazing.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
funny.
and comets in specific are really tricky in shooting and also in post processing, and they are rare. For instance, this comet will not visit solar system another 9600 years. So this is a long-term comet. If it survives, because it may not survive, because of it can hit another celestial object and it can just go away, or something may happen. Even if something doesn't happen, it will not come back in another 6,900 years. So no one else will see this comet again.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah,
Now I understand why you you want to save it for a special mint.
yeah,
It makes perfect sense to me.
yeah. And also, we actually, accept that these background stars, that because they are so far, when you're tracking a star, we accept that star is not moving. They of course moving because Earth is revolving around itself. It's revolving around Sun, and Sun is revolving around the galaxy. But because the things are so far, we don't relatively see the movement. But because comets are extremely close to us, because they are within the solar system, they will move. Even when you start shooting, this is total 15 minutes exposure stack. So when I started shooting, this is the core of the comet. The core of the comet was here actually. And let's say I shot 15 seconds of exposures each. So every time I shot, the comet moved towards this way because it is close to us and relative motion is visible, but these stars are not visible. That's why it makes comet shooting and stacking very, very tricky, because the comet will move even in 15 minutes and the stars will not move. There is a very special technique to align and stack comet images. I know some people, they give up doing comet photography because it's so tricky. So I have, I'm a very patient person, and and I love comet photography and comet stacking, even if it is very tricky.
Man, I can't wait to I can't wait to try to do this. I got to get a camera, so I'll be looking to you for some advice.
Yeah.
And then I can't wait to try it. I think I have to go somewhere a little bit farther out,
Yeah.
maybe to where Rune lives. But over here in Vermont, it's the sky's pretty good, but we actually live in a pretty populated area, so I probably have to go a little bit further out, but not too far, you know. So should be fun.
Actually, for that there are what we call light pollution maps that can use, that you can use in your cell phones as applications, or there are websites that you can use and to see where you have a nearest acceptable light polluted area. So of course I will show you those things too.
Yeah, absolutely. And so before we cut off here, and this has been fantastic. And we said this is part 1, so we hope to have you back to show us. You said next time we'll do like a live capture.
Yeah.
Oh man, that sounds amazing.
And as you speak, I go through some of my images.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh wow, yeah. These are so good. I did see that on and I've seen that a few times.
Yeah, this is exhibited, and this was sold in Artists United collective.
Oh yes, wonderful collective. Yeah. Oh wow.
This is Tarantula Nebula, and this is also sold in my University Metaverse collection. This is Running Chicken Nebula that I have never been able to see the chicken. So these are my collections.
That's great. And so on our socials, we're going to include your all of your links, okay? And I'm thinking, you put on these classes too of your website. Do you want us to include that too? Because maybe there's some folks that want to take the classes. Do you offer them remote, or is it just in person?
I actually offer remote classes through Zoom or Google Meets, and they can just visit. I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, here, stellarexperiences.com.
Oh, awesome.
They can just DM me, if they want courses in details.
Man, that's great. Yeah, so I will put those in the stream for people to check, and we will do a nice post about this. And we might do an article. So we'll do some fun things. But what, like you said, we'll have you on next time, and then you could show us the process live. I think my brain will. My brain will like put everything together when you're doing everything live, because that's how I learn. I'm a visual learner.
Me too.
More of a doer. Like I got to have my hands on it. But it's like, and I don't know if you're like this too, but you get your hands on it, and then I like to go and do the ads. Like you showed all those programs and It's like I got to learn the process first, and then I go back and like try to find things that make it cooler. That's how I do things. But
So like I said, next we can do the live shooting, and next, of course, we will not go through the whole process of post-processing, but I can prepare something, because the software that I use to post-process my images allows me to create workflow and prepare everything ready. And with a basic, information, I can show how I am post-processing one image from 0 to finished, like something like this.
Wow. Oh, that would be so cool. That would be really cool. Yeah. That's fantastic, man. This has been so good, Mustafa, and I really do appreciate you coming on. And I know that the people watching, boy, it's hard to get people to sit down for a couple hours, but the same people are still here.
Really?
Yeah. So a lot of people say that they're starstruck. And they just love the content. So I mean, these same folks are in the Discord, and I know that a lot of people on Twitter are watching too. So if you can, everybody, send Mustafa a thank you, and give him a follow if you're not, and I'll put all that information into the chat. And
I'm just looking at the chat. Yeah, I'm just looking at the.
Yeah, they love it here. So he is looking at the chat. So say hi, say thanks. Throw some emojis out if you can. And
you can throw some donuts or kebabs or.
There you go. Donuts are good.
Like I said before, if you remember in one space before we go, whoever. Whenever in Turkey, if the conditions are good, I'm happy to go out, shoot together at night, and show how things work out in astrophotography. I happily would love to do that.
Oh, that's so cool. One of these days, and I do mean this with all my heart, I would love to do that. It sounds so cool. Man, life's short. I'd love to go out there and learn how to do this with you. That'd be so cool.
Yeah. You're always welcome.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks again for showing us this. And honestly, like I said, this is recorded, so if you missed a lot of it, hey, don't worry, it's there forever. So it'll be on our YouTube. We have it on Twitch and Twitter and all that jazz. But and we'll post a bunch about it, and maybe I can convince Nightmare to get an article or something together, maybe one day. Wink, wink, Nightmare. But appreciate you coming out, and we will see you next time. That's very exciting.
Yeah, sure. Let me see. I will check the weather, but most of the time you wouldn't know just 1 or 2 days prior. So I will be checking the weather for the next weekend. So if everything goes okay, we can do that live shooting session.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess we will see you all next time. All right. Yeah. Bye, everybody.
Bye.